Feedback and feel are terms you hear a lot of in the motorcycle performance riding world. Watch enough racing and you'll soon realise that being able to feel and react to what the motorcycle is telling you as a rider is an important part of going fast and staying upright. Even so, walk down any track day paddock and you'll probably find that the number of riders that have confidence in their feel is quite low, or they don't even know what it is at all. In this video, we're going to talk specifically about feedback and feel, as well as hopefully show you that, actually, you may already understand it more than you give yourself credit for. So what exactly is feedback and feel? Well, I would describe them as the following. Feedback is the information and messages that get passed to the rider through the various controls and touch points that they're using and are in contact with. And feel is the ability to pick up and interpret those messages and react accordingly. Reading those definitions, I would imagine that many of you will still feel none the wiser, but please allow me the chance to leave you with some realizations. First, you've likely experienced it already. Now, this video is mostly going to be looking at feedback and feel as it relates to traction. So to start with, let's use an analogy I'm sure you'll understand. Have you ever knowingly stepped on something slippery? A patch of ice, an oil spill, or maybe a wet and slimy piece of pavement? You look at it and anticipate that it's going to be slippery, and as soon as you place your foot down and put any sort of weight on it, you immediately feel like the surface isn't offering you enough grip to walk properly on it. That's because as soon as you weighted the foot enough to test the grip, you received the feedback that your shoe is not properly gripping on the surface you're stepping on. You then interpret that feedback and walk accordingly. This is a simplified version of feedback and feel. To step a little closer to motorcycles, you've also likely experienced this in a car if you drive. On a wet or snowy road where grip levels have dropped, you experience a vagueness from the steering wheel, particularly when going around corners. In your hands and through the seat, you can feel that the car isn't behaving as it should compared to when the grip levels are normal. You react to that feedback and drive accordingly. To bring it to motorcycles, you may also have experienced this same vagueness on the road when riding in conditions where grip isn't plentiful. The vagueness you feel through the bars is the absence of the strong feedback you get from grippy tyres on a dry, abrasive road. When the grip levels drop considerably, you immediately feel that feedback level drop, and you interpret it to mean you shouldn't ride to your normal standard. This is something you can experience as a motorcycle rider before you've ever turned a wheel on the track, but as we move it onto the track, the principles remain the same. A good example is if you're used to using tyre warmers with sticky tyres and you forget to switch the warmers on. When you head out onto the track with cold tyres, you immediately feel that the grip isn't there because you're getting the feedback that tells you this. Similarly, turn up to a cold and damp track day on Pirelli supercoursers and you'll immediately feel that you don't have the grip you had on your last hot and sunny day. Another thing you might have experienced is going from road bias tyres that have been used for a lot of miles and switching to a fresh pair of super sticky hoops. The bike behaves like it's on rails and feels planted and really digs in and grips when you start winding on the power. It's a difference I believe a complete track novice would feel if doing the test back to back. And this brings us to one of the downsides of modern tyres and tyre warmers. All the things we've spoke about so far here are artificial ways to test and change the grip limits of our tyres, but a lot of us are normally riding around on sticky, pre-warmed rubber on a dry track 95% of the time. This means that the levels of grip riders experience remain fairly static, but it also means they're high enough that for most riders they're well within those limits, so they never get the messages that they're really testing them. And the truth is that until you consistently experience the feedback created from riding to the limit of sticky rubber on a dry track, you're not going to know what that feels like. It's only once a rider's pace gets higher and they begin to test the grip levels do they understand it more. Most commonly, it will be the rear tyre that the riders begin to reach the limits of first. Once the rider gets comfortable with driving hard off the turns, they start to experience small slides. But like I said, it's only once they experience those slides that they understand and become accustomed to them. Trying to explain and make someone feel comfortable with that feeling is an impossible task. And I know I mention him a fair bit, but it's one of the reasons why Marc Marquez goes to the extreme he does to find the limit. If he knows where the absolute limit is to the point of crashing, he has a better reference of where that limit is. And that's one of the key differences with the guys at the top of the sport. Generally speaking, the closer and longer you can dance along the limits of traction, the faster you're going to go. The guys at the top have such a fantastic feel for grip that they can go and stay very close to these limits because of what the bike is telling them on a very fine level. See what happens to a rider when they start complaining of a lack of feedback and bad feel from their motorcycle. They go backwards, particularly if that issue is with the front end. It destroys their confidence to go to the limit of traction because they're essentially trying to go to that limit blind. They aren't confident where that limit is. In terms of the things that can inhibit your feel for feedback, at track day level it will largely be down to two things: being too tense on the bars, and simply not having the attention to really notice it. As your fundamental application improves, you'll develop a more relaxed grip on the bars, and on top of that, many actions will fall down to a subconscious level. This will mean that you're in a better position to feel the feedback physically, and you'll also have more spare attention to actually note what you're feeling. A greater fundamental level and more time in the saddle are really what it's going to take to improve this attribute in your riding. One last factor I want to touch on in feedback is the feedback you get from your setup. For instance, your bike may be incapable of holding a good line because of an incorrect setting, and you can see the bike keeps running wide at corner exit. This is a type of feedback too, because it communicates something that isn't right with the bike. Now, once again, you may not believe that you can feel that type of feedback either, but make a massive change to a suspension component and you'll likely feel it on the track immediately. To bring it back to pro riders again, in comparison, they'll feel the tiniest changes in chassis setup because of the smaller signals they're able to pick up on and because they have more attention available to actually notice it. The big takeaway here is that the bike is talking to you all the time as it deals with the inputs you put into it along with whatever the road has to offer. The level of feedback you can feel and interpret will come down to your ability and your level of experience. It's not really something that's improved through study, so don't feel like you're at some sort of disadvantage because you aren't sure exactly what feedback feels like yet. You have a level of feel now as we demonstrated earlier, but as you get faster and more proficient, you'll begin to pick up more of that feedback and you'll be able to interpret it better, which will then improve the confidence in your feel for grip and bike characteristics. Learning correct riding technique is always going to put you in a better position to achieve this. After that, it simply takes time. Have you had any realizations in the past about feedback and feel? Tell us about it in the comments down below. And as always, if you like the video, then please hit the button and subscribe to the channel for more performance riding advice and guides moving forward. Take care.